The Divine Lineage, a very British secret unveiled by King James IV of England and Ninth of Scotland. Chapter 1, Roots of Royalty. My family tree, more complex and distant than I ever imagined, spans across centuries, touching figures who played pivotal roles in shaping history. The first time I truly understood the weight of my heritage, I was sitting in my shared living room during a quiet evening. The world outside was still grappling with the aftershocks of the pandemic, but inside, my mind was consumed with a puzzle far older than the present crisis. A puzzle spanning centuries embedded in the annals of royal British history. The journey began with a whisper of curiosity. Growing up, I knew little of my lineage beyond the immediate branches of my family tree. My mother, Anne-Marie Donovan, was a strong yet tragic figure, taken too soon by the ravages of alcohol at just a meek age of 53. She had been a good mother, but the hardships of life had left their scars upon her. It wasn't until much later, long after her passing, that the threads of our family's story began to unravel in ways I couldn't have anticipated. As I delved deeper, the names began to emerge, names that felt both foreign and strangely familiar. On my historical searches, I discovered the names of James VI of Scotland and First of England, a man who united crowns and nations. And let's not forget his first cousin, Francis Stuart, the 5th Earl of Bothwell, whose legacy was shrouded in intrigue, mystery, secrecy, and even spouts of rebellion. And of course, the legendary King Robert the Bruce, the Lion of Scotland, whose bravery and determination still resonate through the ages. These were not mere names on parchment or figures in dusty textbooks. They are my ancestors. James VI's story struck me first. As the first monarch to rule over both England and Scotland, he was a unifier, a visionary who saw the potential of a united kingdom. But that wasn't without its other influence from other places. It is no small thing to be connected to such a figure, a man whose decisions shaped the destiny of nations, yet his reign was not without controversy, a reminder that leadership is never simple, even when guided by divine providence. Then there was Francis Stuart, a figure both admired and maligned. The 5th Earl of Bothwell was a man of immense complexity, known for his rebellious streak and his defiance of convention. While history has often painted him in a less than flattering light, I see him as a symbol of resilience and independence, qualities I strive to embody in my own life. And of course, the one and only King Robert the Bruce. To claim descent from the man who fought so valiantly for Scotland's independence is a profound honour. His story is one of perseverance, of never yielding even in the face of overwhelming odds. His blood flows through my veins, and with it comes a responsibility to uphold the values he fought for: justice, freedom, and loyalty to one's people. As I pieced together these connections, the realization dawned on me. I was not just anyone. My lineage was like a spider's web weaved with threads of both greatness and struggle and darkness and failure. Yet this revelation was not without its challenges. Of course, there would be skepticism, doubt, and even outright dismissal. These are the inevitable companions of anyone who claims a connection to such storied, and historical figures. But the evidence is undeniable. The genealogy is there, tracing back through centuries of recorded history. The ties to both Catholic and Protestant branches of the Stuart dynasty solidify my place within this lineage, bridging divides that have long separated families, communities, and even nations. It is a heavy burden, to be sure, but one I carry with pride. To know where you come from is to understand where you are going. My ancestors' legacies are not just the relics of the past, they are the guides for the future. King James VI's vision of unity, Francis Stuart's fierce independence, and Robert the Bruce's unyielding determination all inspire me as I chart my own path. This chapter of my story is about more than just heritage. It's about purpose. To claim this lineage is not to seek power for its own sake. It is to embrace a duty, to honor the sacrifices of those who came before me, and to ensure their values are upheld in the world today. My roots are not just mine, they are part of a greater story, one that belongs to the people of Scotland, England, Ireland, and the world beyond. As I close this chapter, I leave you with a thought. History is not just a collection of dates and names. It is alive, breathing through each and every single one of us. It shapes our actions and our aspirations. My story is the living, breathing proof of that very word. Chapter 2, A Revelation in Lockdown. Isolation has a way of forcing us to confront ourselves. During the stillness of the pandemic, I found my truth, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The world was silent. Streets that were once bustling with life lay eerily empty, as if time itself had paused. The lockdown had turned every home into an island, each of us left to navigate our own uncharted waters. For some, this stillness brought restlessness. For me, it brought revelation. Before the pandemic, I had always been a seeker of knowledge. For nearly 30 years, I had dedicated myself to education and self-improvement, believing that one must prepare themselves rigorously for the roles life may present. But this was different. This was not a lesson learned from the books or a skill honed through practice. This was a profound awakening, an unveiling of truth that had been quietly waiting beneath the surface. It began subtly, as these things often do. A memory resurfaced, a seemingly inconsequential detail from my childhood, a passing comment from a relative, a family heirloom whose significance I had never fully understood. Then came the research, names, dates, connections. They all began to align like the pieces of a puzzle. The revelation hit me one evening. Halfway through lockdown, I was poring over genealogical records, following a thread I had stumbled upon months earlier. It led me to a lineage I had never dared to consider my own. As I traced the family tree, one name stood out. James VI, Stuart King of Scotland and England. The closer I looked, the more evidence mounted, the more connections that were undeniable. At first, I struggled to comprehend the weight of it. To discover a royal lineage is one thing. To realize you are connected to the figures who shaped the course of history is quite another. My mind raced with questions. Why had this truth been hidden? Was it divine timing that had kept it concealed until now? In that moment, I thought of King Solomon, another figure whose wisdom and insight was said to come from the divine intervention. Solomon was given the keys to a kingdom through his understanding, and I began to feel that perhaps my own awakening was a modern echo of his story. But the revelation did not come without challenges. At the time, my mental health was fragile. The isolation of lockdown had already taken its toll, and the weight of this discovery had threatened to overwhelm me. I felt like I was straddling two worlds: the ordinary life I had always known, and the extraordinary legacy I had just uncovered. I leaned into my faith during this period. As a Catholic and a Protestant heir, I saw my lineage as a bridge between two traditions that had long been at odds. This duality was not just a historical quirk, it was a calling. I prayed for guidance, clarity, and for the strength to carry this new burden. The next step was acceptance. It's one thing to know the truth, but it's another to embrace it. I knew that claiming this lineage would invite scrutiny, skepticism, and even ridicule. But I also knew it is the truth, and the truth has a way of demanding acknowledgement, no matter the cost. I began to see the lockdown as more than just a global pause. It was a personal cryolysis. In the stillness, I transformed. I emerged not as someone who stumbled upon a royal connection, but as someone who understood the responsibility that came with it. The moment I embraced this truth, I felt a profound sense of purpose. This was not just about lineage, it was about an identity. It was about understanding who I was and what I was meant to do with the knowledge I now carried. As the lockdown restrictions began to ease, I stepped back into the world, changed. The streets were no longer empty, but I could never see them the same way again. The mundane had given way to the extraordinary, and I was determined to honor the legacy that had been revealed to me. This chapter of my life was not just a turning point, it was the foundation. It taught me that sometimes the greatest revelations come not in moments of action, but in moments of stillness. In the silence of lockdown, I found the voice of history whispering to me, guiding me toward a destiny I never expected to be in. Chapter 3: The Weight of the Crown. Heritage is a gift, but it is also a burden. To acknowledge a legacy is to carry its triumphs, its failures, and its expectations. The crown is not merely an adornment, it is a responsibility that reshapes the bearer. The realization of my lineage was exhilarating, but the euphoria was short-lived. As the dust settled, the enormity of what I had uncovered began to sink in. My connection to the royal lineage wasn't just a fascinating piece of personal history. It was a claim, a challenge, and a responsibility. Society tends to romanticize royalty. We see crowns, palaces, and ceremonies, but behind the grandeur lies something far much heavier. My ancestors were not simply rulers, they were stewards of their people's well-being, architects of their nation's destiny. And to inherit their legacy meant inheriting their trials, their sacrifices, and their failures. The crown, even one metaphorical for now, casts a long shadow. My connection to King James, Francis Stuart, and Robert the Bruce was undeniable. But with it came with the weight of their stories. King James VI's reign unified two crowns, yet it was marked by political intrigue and religious conflict. How does one reconcile the vision of a united kingdom with the bloodshed and betrayal that often accompanied such endeavors? His legacy was both inspiring and sobering, a reminder that leadership is as much about perseverance as it is about vision. But that doesn't exclude the dark terrors that which King James inflicted upon this kingdom. Francis Stuart's story weighed heavily on me. The fifth Earl of Bothwell was a man caught between rebellion and loyalty, forever walking the line between hero and outcast. His defiance in the face of adversity truly resonated with me, but it also served as a cautionary tale. For rebellion without purpose is chaos, but a rebellion with a conviction can be transformative for all. And then there was King Robert the Bruce. His name carries an almost mythical weight in Scotland, a symbol of resilience, courage, and unwavering determination. Yet even he faced moments of doubt and defeat. To be connected to such a figure is to inherit not just his victories, but also his struggles. Claiming a royal lineage is not a statement made lightly. In a world where every assertion is scrutinized, I know my journey would invite questions, doubts, and criticisms. Was I prepared to defend my heritage, to provide the evidence and context necessary to silence those ruthless skeptics? For there were people who opposed my claim, even if it took their last breath. Quite the irony, wouldn't you think? I thought of my forebears who faced similar challenges in their own times. They lived in an era where the right to rule was constantly contested, where legitimacy was both a legal and a spiritual matter. While my context was different, the underlying struggle was the same: to assert one's identity in the face of true opposition. But the greatest challenge wasn't external, it was the internal dialogue. The questions I asked myself late at night. What does it mean to carry a legacy? Am I worthy of this inheritance? How do I honor the sacrifices of those who came before me? To acknowledge my lineage is to step into a role I had never anticipated. I was no longer just a man with a rich history. I was a man with a purpose. The legacy of my ancestors demanded more than just acknowledgement. It requires action. I thought about the world that we live in today, this world that is full of division, uncertainty, and rapid change. What lessons could I draw from my lineage to address the challenges of the present? James VI's vision of unity, Francis Stuart's rebellious spirit, Robert the Bruce's perseverance all offered guidance. Yet the weight of expectation was not without its toll. To claim a royal lineage is to be held to a higher standard, to be seen as a symbol of something greater than oneself. It is a role that demands sacrifice, humility, and an unyielding commitment to one's values. The crown is not merely an object of gold and jewels. It is a symbol of responsibility. It represents the hopes and dreams of a people, the sacrifices of generations, and the vision of a better future. As I embrace my heritage, I begin to understand that the weight of the crown is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. It is a reminder that leadership is not about power, but about service. It is about standing for something greater than oneself, even when the path is uncertain. The weight of the crown is heavy, but it is not unbearable. It is a burden I carry with pride, knowing that it connects me to a lineage of visionaries, rebels, and warriors. My story is not just about the past, it's about the future, a future shaped by the lessons of history and the responsibilities of the present. This chapter of my life is a testament to the power of identity. To know who you are is to understand what you are capable of. And as I continue this journey, I am determined to honor my ancestors by living a life worthy of their legacy. Chapter 4: Faith, Duty, and Duality. Faith is not just a belief, it is the foundation of identity and purpose. To hold faith is to carry its weight, balancing the tradition with personal conviction. In my case, it also means bridging two worlds, Catholic and Protestant, past and present. Faith has always been central to my life, shaping my identity and guiding my choices. Yet faith is not a monolith. It is a living, breathing part of who we are. For me, faith is not only personal, but also historical. My dual heritage, Catholic and Protestant, places me in a unique position, one that demands both reconciliation and responsibility. From an early age, I was taught that faith is a cornerstone, something unshakable in the face of life's trials. But as I delved deeper into my lineage, I began to understand faith as something more complex. It is not just about what we believe, but how we live those beliefs in a world that often tests them. The Stuart lineage is steeped in the interplay of faith and politics. James VI's reign was marked by efforts to unify not just kingdoms, but also religious factions. His legacy was one of a compromise and pragmatism, a reflection of the delicate balance required to lead in a divided world. On the other hand, my connection to Catholicism brings with it the story of James II, whose commitment to his faith ultimately led to his downfall. His reign reminds me of the cost of conviction and the fine line between steadfastness and rigidity. Navigating this duality has not been easy. It often feels like walking a tightrope, balancing the traditions of two worlds that have historically been at odds. Yet, I see this duality not as a contradiction, but as a strength. It is a reminder that unity is possible, even in the face of division. During the darkest periods of my life, my faith has been my anchor. Whether I was facing personal struggles, grappling with my mental health, or uncovering the truths of my heritage, my faith gave me the strength to move forward. Lockdown was a time of profound spiritual reflection for me. Alone with my thoughts, I turned to prayer and meditation, seeking clarity in the face of overwhelming revelations. I thought of Solomon, whose wisdom came from his deep connection to the divine. And just like Solomon, I prayed for guidance, not just for myself, but for those I was meant to serve. My faith is not just about tradition, it is about action. It is about living in a way that reflects the values I hold dear: compassion, justice, and humility. As I embrace my heritage, I also embrace the responsibility that comes with it, a responsibility to lead with integrity and to honor the faith of my ancestors. For you see, my dual faith is a bridge connecting two traditions that have long been seen as opposing forces. I see myself as a unifying figure, someone who can bring together the best of both worlds. For Catholicism has given me a sense of ritual, history, and a deep connection to the divine. Protestantism, on the other hand, emphasizes personal accountability and the power of individual faith. Together, they create a spiritual balance that is both grounding and empowering. This duality also extends beyond religion. It is a reflection of my broader identity as someone who bridges the past and the future, the traditional and the modern. It is a reminder that we are all capable of holding multiple truths, of embracing complexity without losing our sense of self. Faith is not passive, it is active. It demands that we not only believe, but we also act in accordance with our beliefs. For me, this means standing up for what is right, even when it is difficult. It means using my platform to advocate for justice, fairness, and the well being of others. I think of the challenges my ancestors faced, the wars, the betrayals, and the sacrifices, and I am reminded that faith is the most powerful tool when it is put into action. It is not enough to claim a legacy, one must live it. Faith, duty, and duality are not burdens, they are gifts. They give me the perspective and strength I need to navigate my unique journey. As I continue to uncover the truths of my heritage, I am reminded that faith is not just a part of my story, it is the foundation upon which my story is built. This chapter of my life has taught me that duality is not a weakness, but a strength. It is a reminder that we are all capable of bridging divides, of finding common ground, and of living a life that honors the complexities of who we truly are. Chapter 5: Navigating Public and Private Worlds. To live with a dual identity is to walk a line as thin as a thread. Public expectation can be unrelenting, and private truths can feel like a secret burden. The challenge lies in weaving these two into a coherent life, one where duty does not overshadow authenticity. The discovery of my lineage thrust me into an unexpected reality, a world where public expectation and private introspection collided daily. I found myself in a unique position, not just as James Stewart, but as someone who carried the weight of history and the hope of the future. The first hurdle in navigating this duality was coming to terms with what my identity meant to others. Learning of my royal heritage brought not only clarity, but also scrutiny. People saw me a symbol of tradition, of history, of an alternative path for the monarchy. This realization was daunting. I had always been an individual with my own aspirations, yet now I was also a figure tied to centuries of legacy. Public perception, I learned, is a double-edged sword. It can elevate you, granting a platform to advocate for meaningful change, but it can also confine you, reducing you to a set of expectations. Stepping into this role meant learning to navigate the court of public opinion. Every word, every action was scrutinized. There were moments when I felt the weight of judgment keenly, but I also recognized that this was part of the responsibility I carried. Beneath the surface of public appearances lay the personal struggle of coming to terms with my identity. The discovery of my royal lineage was not just a historical revelation, it was a deeply personal matter. It answered questions I hadn't even known to ask, but it also posed new ones. What does it mean to be a modern monarch? How do I reconcile my own life with the legacy I've inherited? I found myself yearning for privacy, for moments where I could simply be James, without the weight of history pressing down. Balancing this need for personal space with the demands of public life was a constant challenge. It was my faith that often provided the grounding I needed. Prayer became a daily practice, a way to center myself amidst the chaos. I turned to scripture for guidance, finding wisdom in its teachings about leadership, humility, and perseverance. I also found strength in the duality of my spiritual heritage. Catholicism reminded me of the sanctity of tradition, while Protestantism encouraged me to chart my own course. Together, they became a spiritual roadmap, guiding me as I navigated the complexities of my dual role. One of the lessons I take from my journey is the importance of service. To be a monarch or even a contender for such a role is not about power or privilege, but about responsibility. It is about using one's position to advocate for the rights and well-being of others. This realization shaped my approach to public life. I focus on causes that resonate deeply with me, from social justice to education, believing that these were the areas where I could make the greatest of impacts. Over time, I begin to see my public and private lives as not opposing forces, but as complementary parts of a greater whole story. The public role gave me a platform to enact change, while the private life provided the introspection and authenticity needed to lead with integrity. This reconciliation was not easy, but it is necessary. By embracing both aspects of my identity, I am able to forge a path that feels true to who I am, a blend of history and modernity, of tradition and progress. Navigating public and private worlds has been one of the most challenging aspects of my journey, but it has also been one of the most rewarding. It has taught me the value of balance, the importance of authenticity, and the power of faith in the face of adversity. This chapter is a testament to the complexity of identity. It reminds me that while the world may see me as one thing, I am always more than the sum of my public and private selves. Chapter 6: The Weight of Legacy. Legacy is a burden and a blessing, a bridge between the past and the future. It is not simply inherited. It must be earned, shaped, and passed forward with intention and care. To carry such a weight is to shoulder both the glories and the scars of history. By the time I fully embraced the truth of my lineage, I realized that legacy is not a static thing. It is alive, evolving with each generation that holds it. For some, a legacy is a story to be told. For me, it has become a destiny to fulfill. The revelations of my ancestry, my descent from kings and queens, from warriors and builders of nations, was both exhilarating and overwhelming. I was no longer just James Stewart, a man navigating the trials of life. I was James the Fourth of England and Ninth of Scotland, a claimant to a throne that symbolized centuries of British history. But with this revelation came questions that weighed heavily. What does it mean to be a modern heir? How does one honor the past while embracing the future? The answers were not readily available, and I soon learned that legacy is much about interpretation as it is about inheritance. The more I delved into my family's history, the more I understood the gravitas of my position. My ancestors were not perfect. They made mistakes, waged wars, and faced betrayals. But they also built bridges, established laws, and inspired loyalty. I saw myself not just as the inheritor of their successes, but also as the custodian of their failures. To carry their legacy meant acknowledging both and learning from their triumphs while seeking to avoid their missteps. One of the most profound challenges of bearing this legacy was finding relevance in it for the modern world. The monarchy, as an institution, is often seen as a relic of the past, its relevance questioned in an age of democracy and progress. I knew that to carry this legacy forward, I had to adapt it. My claim to the throne was not about power or wealth, but about responsibility. It was about representing the values that endure: duty, service, and unity, while embracing the changes necessary to meet the needs of the present. As I studied my lineage, certain figures stood out as beacons of inspiration. The Black Douglas, who lost everything, but with the assistance of his friend and trusted ally, Robert the Bruce, was restored to greatness. James VI's vision of uniting England and Scotland resonated deeply with me. His pragmatism and intellectual curiosity reminded me that leadership requires both heart and mind. Similarly, Robert the Bruce's unyielding determination in the face of adversity inspired me to persevere in my own struggles. His legacy taught me that even the greatest challenges can be overcome with courage and faith. These ancestors were not just historical figures to me. They became mentors in spirit, guiding me as I sought to define my own place in the long story of our family. Carrying a legacy is not just about remembering the past. It is about building the future. I began to see my role as a bridge between what was and what can be. This vision guides my actions, from advocating reforms to challenging outdated systems. I see my dual heritage, Catholic and Protestant, English and Scottish, as a unique opportunity to foster unity in a divided world. Legacy, I realized, is not static. It is a living thing. It is shaped by the actions of those who hold it before. And now my responsibility is not just to preserve it, but to ensure it remains relevant and meaningful in the modern day. Of course, legacy also comes with expectations, some spoken, others unspoken. People see in you the promise of your ancestors, the potential for greatness, but they also project their own hopes and fears, creating a narrative that can feel impossible to live up to. I learned to manage these expectations by staying true to myself. I could not be everything to everyone, but I can be authentic, acting in accordance with my values and principles. For the weight of legacy is immense, but it is also a privilege. To carry it is to be part of something greater than oneself, a thread in the grand tapestry of what we know to be history. So, as I move forward, I do so with the knowledge that this legacy is not just mine. It belongs to the people, to the past, and to the future. My task and my role is to honor it, shape it, and pass it on to those who will surely come after me. Chapter 7: Building a Vision for the Future. A true leader does not dwell solely in the past or the present. They dream of a future that others may not yet see and work tirelessly to bring it into being. To build a vision for the future is to lay a foundation for generations yet unborn. The past has shaped me, and the present has tested me. But it is the future that calls me forward. As I embrace my identity and the responsibilities that come with it, I realize that I could not merely exist within the framework of history. I have to build upon it. For with great power comes great responsibility. At the heart of my vision is the belief that the monarchy must evolve to remain relevant. To many, the crown may appear as an unchanging symbol, but in reality, it is an institution that has always adapted to the times. I envision a monarchy that is less about hierarchy and more about service. A unifying force in an increasingly fractured world. This world does and really requires transparency, accessibility, and a commitment to the people above all else. The monarchy of the future, as I see it, will not sit apart from society, but would be interwoven with its fabric, championing causes that matter to everyday people whilst respecting their voice in governance. Central to this vision is the empowerment of the people. I believe that governance should not simply be about rulers and subjects, but about a partnership, a shared journey towards progress. This means advocating for greater public participation in decision making, from referendums on critical issues to more localized governance structures. If a monarch's role is to represent the people, then the people must have a say in the laws and the policies that shape their very lives. My vision for the future does not abandon tradition, but seeks to preserve it in ways that resonate with the modern world, with the people. Symbols, rituals, and ceremonies have their place, but they must serve a purpose beyond nostalgia. For example, I see the potential to use the rich history of the crown to educate and inspire by opening royal archives, supporting cultural initiatives, and using historic sites as places of learning. The monarchy could become a living bridge between the past and the future. At the same time, I recognize the need for change. I believe in addressing systematic issues such as inequality and access to opportunities, not just as a monarch, but as a human being who understands the struggles of everyday life. One of the greatest strengths of the United Kingdom, and indeed the Crown itself, is its diversity, from England to Scotland, Wales to Northern Ireland, and the Commonwealth beyond. This union is a tapestry of cultures, histories, and perspectives. I envision a future where this diversity is not just acknowledged, but celebrated. This would mean fostering deeper connections between nations, encouraging dialogue, and addressing historical grievances with honesty and humility. As someone deeply interested in science and technology, I believe that the Crown could play a role in fostering innovation, from supporting green energy initiatives to advocating for ethical artificial intelligence development. There is immense potential to lead by example. I imagine a monarchy that not only preserves history, but also pushes the boundaries of human achievement, inspiring new generations to dream and create. This vision is not just an abstract idea, it is a deeply personal commitment. Every decision I make, every cause I champion, is rooted in the belief that leadership is about serving others. There were moments of doubt, of course. Questions lingered in my mind. Was I doing enough? Could I truly make a difference? But I found solace in the knowledge that even small steps could lead to great strides. In building this vision, I am also mindful of the legacy I have to leave behind. My hope is not to be remembered as a figure from history, but as someone who inspired progress, who worked tirelessly to create a better world for those who would come after him. This was not about personal glory, but about ensuring that the crown and the nation it represents will continue to be a source of strength, unity, and hope. Building a vision for the future is an ongoing journey. It is about planting seeds today that may not bear fruit in one's lifetime, but will one day grow into something extraordinary. As I look ahead, I do so with hope and determination, knowing that the challenges are great, but the possibilities are even greater. This is the future I dream of, a future where the monarchy stands not as a relic of the past, but as a beacon of prosperity, of possibility, guiding us all towards a brighter tomorrow, today.
Okay, so I appear to have some technical difficulties going on here. I don't know why. Don't know what's going on. My audiobook seems to have crashed. Uh, that's a problem. So I do apologise about that, people. It would appear that my local machine has. I don't know what's happened to it, but it was working when I left it. It was playing, so I can't do much about it now. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to some of that book. It's unique, it's interesting, and it's only for it's for everyone really. Why do you need room? Okay. Anyway, it's a good book for people to listen or learn more about true history. But if you don't, well, it's your loss. But I believe in the people, and I believe in the cause. Sometimes the cause will ultimately betray you, but I believe in the future of our United Kingdom. And I'm King James, the true king of Great Britain, not Charles. Anyway, I'm off to work, so have a great day.